Hello, I'm Citrus, and you're looking at the perfect grade Gundam Astray Red Frame. This kit was released on March 27, 2009 for 18,000 Japanese yen. And if you're looking for this or any others, use my link in the comments below to check out Gundam Shoppers Network, where you can find this and many other kits and enjoy free shipping on orders over $199, or by taking advantage of their private warehouse service. You can support the channel and save 10% on your next order by using discount code CITRUS10. And if you're in the Philadelphia metro area, you can also check out their physical location at Kaiju Cat Hobby. I bought my copy of this kit in September of 2015 for the Japanese yen equivalent of $194 at the time, including shipping. And being part of the first production run, my copy included the pre-order bonus accessory set, which included the sword, a sword stand, and a set of clear armor parts for about half of the body. Without going on too long about what you can already see, let's just take a quick look at all the runners and dive right into the build. It's hard to say exactly how long I spent building this kit. It took about 7 weeks from September to November 2023, and if I had to put a number on it, I'd say it was about 20 to 30 hours. And here are the colors that I used this time. Let's start with the look and feel. So right away you can see this guy is huge, so for the rest of this video, I'm not going to do too much of handling the kit and talking at the same time because it's just so large. It feels quite heavy and weighty in the hands, very solid, but it does lack a certain sense of density, which I will talk about a little bit later. Here's the completed perfect grade Astray, next to a DX Chogokin YF25F, which is also 160 scale, and a master grade RX-78 version 3.0. Compared to all the other modern kits of the Gundam Astray, this one is easily the most brawny looking. I think a lot of other kits go a little bit too far in stretching out the design and making it look a little bit too lanky. The high resolution model comes close, but its overall balance is just a little bit off for me to really jive with it. Now I think this kind of thick, sturdy look really captures the feeling of the original design. And speaking of the source material, the perfect grade Astray is also based on the GAT-X frame from the perfect grade Strike Gundam. Unfortunately, although this kit came out in 2009, the Strike Gundam came out all the way in 2004, and there's a huge gap. Now, just for a little bit of context, in Gunpla today, 5 years isn't that much time. In the year 2024, if we compare a recent release to something that came out in 2019, the quality between two kits of the same grade or price range is not going to be too far apart. But if we're going to go back to 2004 to 2009, we're talking about the gap between the master grade Ball, which was the first kit to have ever had a complete inner frame, and it's just a sphere, okay? All the way to one of the most infamously complicated kits of all time, the Victory Gundam Verka. This came out at the end of 2009, and the Ball came out at the end of 2004. The leaps in Gunpla technology then were absolutely massive. So basically, the perfect grade Astray has the very unenviable task of bringing a 2004 level perfect grade to 2009 standards. And spoiler alert, it doesn't do a great job. That's not to say this is a bad kit, but Bandai definitely cut way more corners than they probably could have or should have. And you'll see what I mean as we go through the kit from top to bottom. Like most other perfect grades, the Astray has an LED in the head to light up the eyes. Unfortunately, accessing it is a very fiddly affair. The two little red parts behind the ears, let's say, have to come off first, and then you have this hatch that is very difficult to get a good grip on. The little bar that wraps around the back of the neck doesn't help things either. Even if you use something like tweezers to help you, there are still only a few good angles from which you can get good enough grip to pull the cover off easily. And not to mention, if you painted a kit, it is a huge scratch risk. Now, once you manage to turn the light on, the effect isn't great. The Strike has a relatively square head, and the Astray has a comparatively much longer head. The light piping in the eyes does not correctly compensate for this, and ultimately, the effect is you can hardly see the lights through the eyes at all, and when you can, you only see one light as opposed to two eyes being fully illuminated. Moving down, there's a ton of detail in the rear shoulder vent, but it is all cast into one piece of red plastic. If you want to paint this detail, you have to do a lot of very tedious masking. There is no model kit of the Astray that came out after this that ever casted all of the detail and the vent grille in one piece. Onto the elbows, at full bend, the tips of the bicep armor actually force the sides of the elbow armor apart, causing yet another scratch risk if you decide to paint your kit. In the waist, the lower two pieces of armor don't properly compensate for the sculpted detail of the waist unit itself, so rotating the body any significant amount will pop them right off. There are two issues with the hips. On my example, at least, the swinging hip joint only locks in the rearward position. But that doesn't matter so much because the thighs are so much thicker now because of the Astray's armor compared to the Strike's that even if you move the hips all the way forwards, there's still so little clearance that you gain almost no additional clearance for the leg to be able to swing forwards. Most kits we see these days have the hips swing up and down as opposed to forwards and back, and this is a pretty good example of why modern kits have moved away from this design. Two more problems at the knees. The topmost part of the knee doesn't have a linkage attached to it, so when you straighten the leg out, it doesn't return to its original position. On the Strike, this part would be able to push against the leg in order to straighten itself out, but there's only a hollow cavity here under the thigh armor, so there's nothing for that piece to push against. Also, due to varying tolerances between the armor and the frame parts, it's not uncommon for the sticky outy parts of the thigh armor to collide with or simply just eject the knee armor as you're moving the leg around. And there are other foibles of the adaptation from Strike to Astray that you'll notice just while building the kit. For example, there's supposed to be a rotation in the middle of the lower leg, but it is locked up due to a linkage that goes up to the back of the knee for some reason. The pistons in the base of the wrist are supposed to allow it to move basically in 360 degrees, but the Astray's armor restricts it to moving only up and down. The Strike frame underneath is actually really quite nice, although it does have a few quirks. For example, the feet have almost no ability to rotate because of how the pistons kind of lock them up, but there's a lot of smooth, firm, solid action within the body, thanks to the joints being made out of multiple materials. Most of them are made with a polycap on one side and then an ABS bushing on the other. And the little foam pads on the soles of the feet actually do a good job of keeping the whole kit steady and the feet from slipping. All this is to say is that before we even move on to the accessories, the finished body itself, although impressive to behold visually, is not super fun to handle. And I think because Bandai really tried to aim for a buff, muscular aesthetic with this kit, they ended up making a lot of the armor bigger than it really needed to be. So you end up with a lot of hollow space between the inside of the armor parts and the frame itself. Hence the lack of density that I mentioned before. Now, as for the basic accessories like the beam sabers, shield, and rifle, pretty straightforward. They don't weigh very much, so you don't have to worry about limbs falling out of position or poses sagging over time. And as a matter of fact, even though the frame comes with a covered slot for a display stand, the fact that this doesn't come with one isn't a huge problem because you almost never have any balance problems with the kit. But one thing that does cause balance problems are the swords. And in that sense, I mean more so visually. The big gimmick of the red frame, of course, are its katanas. And they look amazing when they're not actually on the kit. While they're equipped, they're incredibly unwieldy. They almost look like they're supposed to be for a 1/48th scale version of this kit. They're just so large. The swords themselves, not too bad, but the scabbards are really thick, and the pegs that hold them onto the suit, and also the connector that comes with the pre-order set for the swords to connect to each other, don't do a great job at holding everything together. This is ultimately a matter of preference, but for me, in some poses, they really do look comically large. Altogether, I think this is a great looking kit, although it's not super fun to play with, nor was it that fun to build, given all the concessions that Bandai made to adapt a frame that really wasn't quite suited for the body. Even though the lore says it is so, there's a pretty good reason why basically no other version of the Astray Gundam is based on a Strike Gundam of the same grade. And you're looking at it. Of course, all that said, I can't say I'm disappointed. Way back in the year 2009, Wizartar and Too Old for Toys made a 3-part review of this exact kit, and it was that video that led me to embark on a Gunpla journey. Even though they echoed a lot of the same sentiments that I just shared with you, I thought, well, this thing looks cool, and I'm a scrub who doesn't know any better, so all of the problems they complain about surely wouldn't affect me nearly as much. Now, luck would have it that when it came time for me to buy one, I couldn't find one. And with the money that I had, the guy at the store literally told me, hey, if you're going to spend $200, like, go buy 4 master grades instead. So I walked out of the store with a bit of pocket money left over and the master grade Astray red frame and a unicorn instead. So it wasn't until 5 years after that that I even got my hands on an Astray, and then almost 10 years after that for me to build it. With my experience and knowledge, why did I do this? There are 3 reasons. First, I wanted to see for myself if I would come to the same conclusions. Second, I wanted to make this video to carry on the torch, so to speak. And third, well, I'm still just a huge sucker for the Astray's colors and design. But should you buy this? Well, a couple of things. It's not cheap. First of all, the pre-order set is definitely not worth it, given the prices that they're going for these days. The kit is barely okay to pose with just one sword. Adding another one really doesn't do that much. And the rest of the set, I think, adds very, very little value. So we're looking at just the kit itself. The US retail price for it is $210, which is steep. There are other perfect grades you can buy for basically less money and get more or at least the same amount out of them. The regular perfect grade strike is quite a bit cheaper, has the frame in its intended armor, and also comes with a big shiny sword if that's the thing that you're into. And that's just one example. So I would say, unless you have a huge soft spot for the Astray, or the design otherwise has some sentimental value to you like it does to me, this is a kit you can probably put off for a sale or something like that. As for the web exclusive versions of the Astray that are even more expensive, well, if you're looking at those, you're probably not as concerned about what the quality of the kit itself is, since there's so much more of the rarity and everything that goes into it. So I can't comment on that. But the tactical arms version, I will definitely say it's probably only going to be good for looking cool in a standing pose, and that's about it. All right, so not the most upbeat note to end on, but I ultimately had a pretty satisfying experience with this kit, and I hope this video was helpful to you. If you'd like to support the channel and help me make more content like this, remember to check out Gundam Shoppers Network using my link below and use code CITRUS10 to save 10% on your next purchase. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.